Hey folks, this is Mike Tholfsen from the Microsoft Education team. We're here with our daily remote learning with Microsoft EDU webinar, and we have a special Friday edition because the whiteboard stuff is so cool. We said, we're just going to have a show on Friday, even though we normally don't. So today, there'll be lots of goodness from the whiteboard team. And here is the agenda. I'll be giving the latest news and updates briefly. We've got Ian Mikutel, who's head of product on the whiteboard team. And Ian and I have known each other a long time, back in our OneNote days. And we've got Davy Timmerman, an educator and ICT coordinator in Belgium, who's doing a bunch of cool stuff with whiteboard in the classroom. So just a review of our quick links that we always share because they're so useful. Microsoft Learning Site, a remote learning site, and the Teams EDU Quick Start Guide. It is super handy for people who are new to Teams, and there's a lot of those people right now. It's in many different languages, so you can click that link and get your own language. And then please sign up for our remote learning community. That's where we have thousands of educators around the world in a big team. We are a PLN, there's Microsoft team members in there, engineers, product folks, working with schools and educators. Lots of good learning and ideas in there, so please join our community. For today's updates, first off, there's a new whiteboard YouTube channel, and maybe Ian will talk briefly about that. They just launched it, I think, yesterday, and they're going to be posting a bunch of cool whiteboard videos to help educators out in the classroom, amongst other things. There's also a really cool Flipgrid that educators from around the world have been adding their favorite scenarios on how they use Teams. So you can go and watch a short video and learn how are other educators doing Teams in the classroom for distance learning and remote learning. And then we also just launched a student video playlist. So on YouTube, the Microsoft Education folks have a nice little playlist with really short how-to videos that are aimed at students. So 3 good links to write down or bookmark or check out. This whole PowerPoint deck will also be posted tomorrow morning. So all of the webinars and all of the links to the show notes are all in there. So without further ado, we have Ian Mikutel from the Microsoft Whiteboard team. And I always think, I know Ian, you're probably so old now, but I always think of Ian as that fresh-faced college guy that I knew many years ago on OneNote, but he's like married. He's almost a grown-up now. It's crazy. So Ian, it's great to have you on the show today and wow us with the whiteboard.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. And it's great to be here, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. And I'm super appreciative of the time today to talk about Microsoft Whiteboard with my friend Davy. So Davy is a real teacher, not just a person that works at Microsoft on products. And he's going to show you how he uses Whiteboard in his classroom to really teach. And he's a shining example of that. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit about and share a little bit about how you should think about Microsoft Whiteboard for education. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that. And so Microsoft Whiteboard for education actually launched maybe a year or two ago now, but a lot of you may not be familiar with it. And it's very powerful. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we think about Whiteboard behind the scenes and the vision for it. And then I'll hand it off to Davy for a live demo. So the first thing that I tell everybody is we're helping you kind of transition from reviewing documents to co-creating and collaborating in real time. And there's a bunch of scenarios on this slide that talk to kind of different ideas, group projects, coaching, design-led thinking. But this is the way that many of us are moving towards for learning and working. And so Whiteboard's here to help you do that, make that transition easy. And then we think about the product in actually 3 different pillars. And a lot of people don't realize this. They think that top one, the canvas, is kind of what Whiteboard is all about. But we also are built on the right side there from the ground up for teamwork, just like Microsoft Teams was. We actually launched the products about the same time. And so every feature we build in Whiteboard is thought of and designed for group collaboration, group projects, teamwork from day one. And the last one on the left there is intelligence. So we like to say, I like to tell all of our users, if you put a quarter in the Whiteboard, you should get $1 back. And not in an annoying, clippy, old school sense where we're going to bother you. We're going to do things that are kind of just in time. They kind of make sense. They're natural, intuitive, but they make the Whiteboard feel really powerful. And that's why use a digital whiteboard instead of an analog one. So one of the things that we also talk about is redefining creative work. And really what we come across so often is people think that creative, the word creative, really just means designers. And that's not true anymore. The way that we all have to work, and I think this period, even as we're all working from home and teaching remotely, is a really good example of that. We have to get creative. We have to think outside the box. How are we going to work differently, teach differently, learn differently? And that's what Whiteboard's all about. It gives you the space to redefine how you work and learn creatively. So this is kind of a really quick recap. I know this is a bit of an eye chart, as they say, a lot of text. So let me kind of walk you through it quickly. What's out there? Where can you get Whiteboard? What's available? The first thing is it's on a lot of different platforms, and some you may not even expect. So we have a native app for Windows 10 and iOS devices, both iPhone and iPad. And it's highly optimized for devices like the Surface devices. So if you have a Surface device, not just the big Surface hubs, but if you have a Surface laptop or a Surface Pro, we do a lot of work to make it extra great on those. And then we have a web app. A lot of people don't know. We recently launched a web app for Android and for Mac, and also for other devices out there that may need access to it. And then kind of moving down here, we've optimized it for collaboration, like I said earlier. So there's a lot of really cool features in Whiteboard that speak to this. One of the things I like to talk to everybody about, everybody kind of notices it when you first try Whiteboard, is we have this idea called presence. And it's almost like karaoke bobbleheads, I call it, that kind of follow people around on a whiteboard. So when you're adding ideas and brainstorming together, you see who's thinking about what. And it really makes it feel kind of engaging and intuitive and collaborative. And I can only say that this has really been an important aspect to the product as we've all had to start working remotely. We miss that human-to-human contact right now. And so Whiteboard, it kind of gives you a good bridge there. We're highly integrated into Teams. So every Teams meeting comes with the Whiteboard baked right into the share area. So right where you click your little share button in Teams meetings and you get your PowerPoints, right next to that, you'll see a big blue whiteboard tile. And that will let you launch a whiteboard directly for everybody in a Teams meeting with one click. Not everybody has to go load it up. And I'll talk to that and show you an example in a second. And so there's a lot of goodness here for collaboration. Of course, we're moving along here on the middle top. We're an Office 365 application. So you get all the kind of compliance and goodness that you would expect from every Office app. And then we are really built, some of these other areas here on the bottom, natural input, rich digital content, we're built to work in modern ways. So if you happen to have a device that supports touch or pen, Whiteboard is amazing on those devices, and you should definitely give it a shot. And if you don't have touch or pen, that's also okay. We are highly optimized for keyboard and mouse as well. So now we support everybody coming to the table and collaborating together. And then finally, I want to talk to this and show you a really big new thing for Whiteboard recently. Even if you're familiar with Whiteboard, you may not have tried yet, is our new templates. So these are special, unique, smart, intelligent templates that are built into Whiteboard now in a preview state, and you can use these right now. And so I'll show you a quick example of those. So as I said, Whiteboard is built to kind of be kind of a free-form canvas. It's optimized for natural input. As you can see in this example, we have really cool AI features. This one is called ink beautification. What it does is it helps make your writing more legible. So you can see in this example, somebody wrote something, didn't understand it, the person taps on it, and it made it a lot easier to read with one tap. That's using Microsoft's AI to actually recognize what you wrote and make it more legible. It's a really, really cool feature that's exclusive right now to Microsoft Whiteboard. So give that a shot. And you can also bring in lots of rich content into Whiteboard. So if you have PDFs, Bing images, PowerPoints, Word documents, all of that can be brought in onto the Whiteboard canvas, and you can actually have multiple different types of content in the same place. So sticky notes and text and images and PDFs and Words and PowerPoints, all that can live in one place, and then you can collaborate with a bunch of people. So it's really, really cool. This is the templates thing that I mentioned. So you can now get started really fast in Whiteboard. The number one piece of feedback we heard from educators was, I need to get going faster. I don't want to blank Whiteboard every time. So what you see here is our new Whiteboard templates. And you can drop, for example, this one you see here is our brainstorming template. We have a lot of different types, and we have more coming for education specifically. So stay tuned, follow me on Twitter, and I'll announce that when we have it. But as you see in this example, what a whiteboard template lets you do is have some intelligence behind this. These aren't just images on the canvas. You can sort the order of your sticky notes. You can organize them by the most voted or reacted upon. You can do things like even capture agenda items and follow-ups or assign tasks soon. All these types of things that are baked right into our templates. And all you had to do as a user is hit one button to get this whole template right on the whiteboard. So you don't have to set up a lot of things beforehand, spend a lot of time managing and setting things up. One tap will get you going. And of course, I did say that you can collaborate in real time. That is a huge aspect to Whiteboard. So you can easily invite other people to the whiteboard, your whole class with one click. You'll see it show up in our little, we call the people picker. So one tap to invite a lot of people at once, which is fantastic. You can also click and share a link, and you can send that in Teams or email or wherever you want to send a link to get somebody on the whiteboard. So lots of ways to get people involved. And it doesn't matter what app they're using. So they could have the Windows 10 app. My friend Mike could have the iOS app. My friend Davy could have the web app, and we would be all on the same whiteboard working together. Doesn't matter where we're doing it from. Of course, we save automatically. This is 2020, right? We don't have to save buttons anymore, I like to say. So Microsoft Whiteboard is always saving into the cloud. All of it's backed by our Azure cloud right now. So all of the whiteboards will be kept in your Office 365 account, safe and sound. They'll sync with you anywhere you go, and you never have to worry about that. I'm going to skip this Surface Hub thing right now because it's not super relevant when we're all working from home or teaching from home. But Teams is highly relevant. So let me talk to this real quick. So as I said earlier, every Microsoft Teams meeting now has Whiteboard built in. So when you click the share button in a Teams meeting, and instead of clicking a PowerPoint, you'll see right to the right of that, you'll see a little blue whiteboard tile. And the key thing I want to note here is that this is not a screen share. So we worked with the Teams team and did something really special. When you hit that button, what happens is the Whiteboard web app launches for everybody individually that is connected to that Teams meeting. Why that's important is it means now everyone can instantly collaborate on the whiteboard together. They don't have to download any apps. They don't have to hit any buttons themselves. That just the organizer of the meeting, the teacher in this case probably, just hits Whiteboard, and you now are all collaborating literally with one person hitting one button. It's really powerful. So give that a shot and reach out to us if you have questions. Lastly, just to kind of wrap up, we are available on a lot of different devices. iOS, we have a native app on iPads and iPhones, Windows 10 app, the web app for Android and Mac folks. So give those a shot. And some more kind of details here for your IT crowd that may want to know, how do I manage the app? What kind of architecture and compliance do we have? We are Tier C compliant, GDPR, HIPAA, all that good stuff. Happy to answer more questions offline about that as well. And to wrap up, there's a lot of ways you can connect with me and the Whiteboard team. And I'm kind of put this up here. If we're sharing the PowerPoint deck after, you can click all these links. It just gives you easy links to get to the Windows 10 or iPad app, to follow me on Twitter. We do have a private Facebook group with over, I think, 1,500 teachers in it, just sharing how they use Whiteboard and helping each other. So go check that out. And then, as Mike said, we just launched our YouTube channel literally yesterday. That's youtube.com/Microsoft Whiteboard. I'm going to be on there kind of giving a ton of very specific videos. Hey, how to use Whiteboard if you don't have a touch or pen? How do you use it if you only are using Teams? How do you use it to do group projects? You name it, we're going to do a video on it. So please join us there and join in the discussion and learning. And with that, I want to hand it off to Davy to talk a little bit about how he uses Whiteboard in his classroom.
Hi, Ian. Thank you for giving me this honor to show everything from Microsoft Whiteboard. I'm a user of Microsoft Whiteboard since the very first beginning, and I'm very fond and I'm very proud to use it. So let me just share my screen and show how you just go to the whiteboard.
Yeah,
I
just wanted to say to everybody, Davy and I were chatting. Davy is a rock star Whiteboard user, and he is a shining example of how you can use it in your classroom. So I really appreciate Davy joining us today. So take it away.
Thank you, Ian. How do you use Windows Ink. Windows Ink is not their standard, so just need to show Windows Ink, and then if you have the Windows Ink button here, you see Microsoft Whiteboard, which is the app, and the app is already open with me. So why did I use or start using Microsoft Whiteboard? There are a lot of different ways or a lot of different reasons why we started using Microsoft Whiteboard, but the main reason why we started using Microsoft Whiteboard was because we were looking for software that was universal for all digital boards. We have digital boards from several vendors, but you have several vendors, several software, but we wanted to use one kind of software that was universal for all the boards. And at the same time, it was in January 2018, we saw Microsoft Whiteboard and we tried it and we were very fond of it. And that's why we're using it right now more and more. And we can see now that it's used on multiple devices, not only digital boards. We see it used by our students on a tablet or on a desktop app, because we see that Microsoft Whiteboard has changed a lot. First, it was mostly for digital boards and touch devices. Now what Ian already told us, you can use your keyboard, you can use a mouse, and you just join in that particular way. So it was in, I think, January 2018. It was the oldest whiteboard I could find in my Microsoft Whiteboard app. That was the first whiteboard that I made, and it wasn't the last one, as you can see. And why do we use Whiteboard? Because there are so many reasons. Ian told us already so many reasons, but there are so many reasons more. First of all, it's easy to use. I give a teacher training. I'm a teacher trainer. I'm a pedagogical ICT coordinator, and it's very easy to use. When I share it with my teachers, it took them, I don't know, 10 minutes, and they were just click, and they were just doing it as natural, as fluently as it could be. It's cloud-based, so when you leave your class, it's there, it's in the cloud. You go to your next class, you open your Microsoft Whiteboard, and it's there. So why would you use something else? It's in the cloud. You can take your lesson home, you can prepare at home. Mostly I prepare my lessons at home in Microsoft Whiteboard. So when I go into the class, I can just pop up my Microsoft Whiteboard and start from scratch or from the preparation I made at home. Right now, in times where we do remote teaching, Microsoft Whiteboard is just easy to use. We prepare it at home, we share it with our students, and our students can join in. I share it with my students. I make several notes in class, and I share that board with my students. So when they're at home, they can just revisit the lesson, see what everything we did in the lesson, and just look it up. They have the means to do it. We collaborate with students. I'll show you in a minute when I go to another whiteboard that some of my whiteboards are shared with my students. And if I want them to collaborate, it's just 2 clicks away. I just move the permissions from reading only to you can edit this board and we can start collaborating. It's very easy. It's very nice to do it with your students, not just a brainstorm where they share ideas and you put it on a blackboard, but they have ideas and they can collaborate in that whiteboard. All the extra features that are there, ink to shape. When I was young and we had math, our teacher showed us this is a circle, but it's not a circle. It looks like a circle, but it's not a circle. Right now, when we have Microsoft Whiteboard with the ink to shape feature, it's very easy. You just make a circle and it's a circle. The same thing for a table. If you want to make a table in Whiteboard, it's very easy. You just put it online. You just make a table and it's there. Even with the background, some of the teachers really like the black board and a white crayon. And in Whiteboard, it's just 2 options. You make your background black and your crayon then white, and you make your own presentation. So it's very easy, not only background, but also for math teachers, you have a function where you can do maths without making your own lines and making a whole structure. It's 2 clicks away and you have your own background, which you liked and you want to use. Posting it to Teams and OneNote, it's a possibility. So it's very easy that those other Microsoft projects are just working together and not working separately. They work together, which is very nice. I use OneNote as a syllabus and Microsoft Whiteboard is next to that, so they can collaborate even with the 2 apps together. We can add pictures, notes, text. You can even make a picture of something and make it editable. I've got a very great example in a few minutes from just a text on a white piece of paper, which I made into something that I can edit in Whiteboard, and multi-touch. Multi-touch is something which is really nice, but it's really nice if the app you're working really uses multi-touch. Here you can see an example, 2 students working on my digital board in my class, and they're working simultaneously without any hesitation. So you can make several exercises, put them next to each other, put several students next to each other, and make them work in Whiteboard. Here you can see I've put a PDF file in it, and yes, there's a like button. Students really like that like button, not even for everything that's in it. You can see some text, you can edit some text. That's no problem. What was also one of the biggest key points why we start using Microsoft Whiteboard, and we're using it right now, is they're all new features. Every few months, Ying is there with, oh, I've got a crazy idea. I'll let you show something new. And those new features make that Microsoft Whiteboard is something like hip. Students and teachers like it because it evolves every time. Every time you see it, it evolves. It's not the same for a lot of months or a lot of years. And
yeah, every 2 weeks we ship a new update to Microsoft Whiteboard. Every 2 weeks.
That's really nice because and that way we can see that the product is evolving. So our lessons evolve, our ways of teaching evolve, and we see the product evolving with our lessons. The ways that I use it, there are a lot of ways that I use Microsoft Whiteboarding. First of all, as a whiteboard, which I can share with my students, not a blackboard. If I use just a blackboard and a crayon, if I leave the class, my whole work, my whole scheme, my whole sketch that I made is gone. So with the whiteboard, that's not the case. I can just make a new whiteboard if I want to save another whiteboard. Notes, I can save them for later classes. If I give a class a second time to another group of students or for next year, you just save it and you're there like, okay, I have a scheme or I have a sketch which I can use next year. Brainstorming, I do it a lot and very often in my classroom. I give them just a subject and let's brainstorm. Let's see what kind of words are there and what we can work with before we just go to the subject and just go to the core of the business. Pros and cons. I give them a question and I give them a few minutes. Okay, give me some pros, give me some cons, put them in a whiteboard. Let's see which is really a pro, is it really a con? Some argumentation with that, some argumentation if some question of me is good or is it just bad. Start of a lesson, an exercise. I can do this at home. I make an exercise, make a whole new whiteboard, put an exercise in it and then share it with my students, and then they get 5 minutes to start working on that exercise. Collaboration among students, not only as we teachers and the students collaborating with each other, but some students collaborate with each other. So we as a teacher are there just to look at the overview, but students are collaborating with each other. For example, a mood board. Some of our teachers want students to make a mood board and they want to do it not in Word, but in a completely different app. And then they use Microsoft Whiteboard just to make one mood board. And there's a lot of ideas. You can have a lot of things to do in Whiteboard. Why not give a presentation in Microsoft Whiteboard? Whiteboard is something you can use and you can make a creative presentation, or for history, a timeline. If you want to have a timeline which you can edit every day or add new things to your whiteboard, it's perfect. Let me just show you some of the whiteboards that are already in my store. This one is one I usually show to my teachers when I give a teacher training. These are a lot of sketches. You can see a lot of pictures in it. You can see a lot of shapes that are made of it. Even I call this the cat scratch, because here I can show teachers with 10 fingers on the screen, you can make cat scratches and it works perfectly. This one is an example of the pictures I told you. I took a picture of a piece of paper with some text on it. I put it in Whiteboard and with a few clicks, it became this, so I can edit it and it's not just a piece of paper in my whiteboard. I can put several pictures in it and they can lay over each other, go over each other and then go back. These are a few features that are there in Microsoft Whiteboard and make it very easy to use. So this one is one of my demo boards. You can see all the shapes. This is an egg. This is definitely an egg, not a circle. But this is one of the things I do. This one is an example of a brainstorm session. The brainstorm session was about, okay, an operating system. You have an operating system. What kind of words are you thinking about when I say, okay, this is an operating system? Give me some examples. And they were like giving me some operating systems, GUI, TUI, which are very common if you talk about an operating system. So this is one. This one is one of my brainstorm session. This one I used with. This one is ready and set for April. So in my students have a recess now, but in 2 weeks they're there and it's going to be remotely. This one is one of the examples I told. These are notes from one class in particular. So this one is the exercise that it's ready and set for in 2 weeks. And you can see right here that all my students are already here and they can see this just my whiteboard. And when the lesson starts, I'm just gonna edit that. I'm just gonna change that they're gonna be able to edit the whole thing. So they gonna change my whole lesson notes, which is really fun and really easy to do, especially now when you have a remote learning environment when my students are not with me in the same class. These are a few examples. Another one, this is also one note I share with my students. This one was an exercise I have on a piece of paper in a PDF file. I just drag it in, I dropped it in. This is on numeral systems and go from binary to hexadecimal and do the same thing, just some notes and sketches. It's really easy. When you start using it in 5 minutes, you're like, okay, that's how we make another whiteboard, and let's go get another one. And as you can see, there are a lot of whiteboards here, and which is also a very cool feature that was, I think, added a few months, maybe last year, is the naming. In the first year, there were a lot of whiteboards, and it's like you have to give yourself some structure. With whiteboard, you can name all of your whiteboards. So right now I can see not just by the picture on the whiteboards, which picture is what, but I can also see by name, okay, that's the name of that whiteboard, that's the name of the whiteboard I want to use. So you can see I use it very often in my class. This one was about memory. If I say the word to you, memory, and in computer science and in computer languages, what are the things that pop up when you say memory? Like a USB drive, SSD, HDD, and so on and so forth. So the main idea was brainstorming, not only brainstorming, for example, an exercise. When you have a Blackboard, you use your Blackboard also for exercises. And this one was an exercise for one of my students. For example, make a directory, make a file, copy a file to your directory, and instead of projecting them with just a Word document, I did it this way, and I edited some of my students who then changed my whole notes. But that's the really fun part, the collaboration part. It's not only just giving them, okay, these are my notes, do what you want with my notes, these are my notes. No, they can collaborate, they can work together, they can see this as a whole thing where they collaborate in one classroom. I'm just gonna show you one more picture. That's me doing my work every day. This is my classroom. So when I use whiteboard, most of my students are following my whiteboard, not only on my digital board, but also on their own desktop. And if they have questions, they can surely ask questions, but also sometimes they can edit my whiteboard and they just join me in my class, which makes my class so much easier and so much nicer when I can do it and share it with my students. So these are a few examples or reasons or why you should use whiteboard, but mainly there are a few good real rules. It's in the cloud, so you don't have to hesitate. You can use it everywhere, not on your computer, on your smartphone, on your tablet, on your, I don't know, most of the devices are supported. Just a quick one thing. This is the same thing, but in my browser. So if you're in your Office 365 environment, just go over here, look inside the apps. You can see whiteboard. You just click on your whiteboard. You make a new whiteboard. You try it out, and if you want to open it in your app, you even got a possibility open an app, and you have so much more to give. And you'll see it makes your life so much easier, and it makes the life of your students also so much easier because you can share everything with them. So these are a few key ideas how you can use whiteboard in your lessons, and maybe some ideas, some inspiration for you guys. I hope you you have a lot of inspiration right now for your and your students.
Thanks so much, Davy. One thing I just wanted to end with for clarification, and I'll hand it off to Mike to wrap up, is if you want to use Whiteboard on the web app from office.com or inside of Teams, that right now is going to give you collaborative real-time inking. If you want to have text, sticky notes, images, or templates, you just have to download the free iPad or Windows 10 application and sign in with your Office account from your school, and you'll get all that stuff. So you have multiple options depending on what you're looking to use right now. And over the long term, we're looking to make our web app match all the capabilities that you have in Windows 10 and iOS. So be on the lookout for updates from me on that. So again, thank you so much, Davy. This was, I think, incredible to see a real firsthand perspective of how you're using this in your classroom. And like you said, I hope it inspires other people out there. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mike to wrap things up.
Great. Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Davy. That was amazing, showing what you're doing there. Super cool. So I'm going to share myself back here, and give me just a moment. So just to recap of some of the updates we talked about, there's the new Microsoft Whiteboard YouTube channel, and Ian and all of his friends on Whiteboard are going to be putting lots of cool videos up there, so check back. And then there's the Flipgrid with all the team scenarios in it, which if you want to add your own, you can. If you want to learn how other people all around the world are using Teams for distance learning, you can do that. And then there's the student videos playlist.
Mike, can I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
We've had a number of people ask questions in the Q&A tab of our live event. Do we have time to go over one of these or a couple of these questions that people are asking?
Yeah, I'd have to see them though. I can't promise we answer every question, but how many are there left?
I'd say 3 or 4 relevant ones that that maybe Ian or Davy can answer. Ian and Davy, can you also take a look at the published tab in our live event platform? It's on the right-hand pane.
Yeah.
So one of the key questions that people ask is, can Microsoft Whiteboard somehow be integrated in Google Classroom?
Interesting question. I think the easiest way you could probably do it, and maybe Mike has played around with this, is you can use our web app and probably like let the two play together. Davey, I don't know if you have thoughts on this. I haven't actually tested that myself, but I think the web app is flexible enough that you could probably do both. Do you have any thoughts, Davey?
Yeah, I think you can also use it in the web app. The basic stuff is there to just make notes and use it in your classroom. And as you said, if you want to use the extra things like put some pictures in it, you just use the app. But I think it's integratable.
Okay, can the people who are asking this question reach out to you on Twitter, for example? Ian,
definitely.
How about your DMs are open on Twitter, right? So they can send you a direct DM, or they can use the sign up form to join the new remote learning, enable remote learning community on Microsoft Teams. Then there's another question. Let me see. Let's stick to Whiteboard mostly. What if we don't see the Whiteboard app in the share? Now, I'm not entirely sure what people mean by Whiteboard app in the share. Is that during screen sharing, or what is?
Yeah, I think they're talking about inside of Teams. So what is probably happening, and you can double check with your IT administrator, is somebody maybe inadvertently shut that off. So as of this last fall, Microsoft Whiteboard is default on in every Teams tenant worldwide. So you will have that Whiteboard icon there by default. In our preview form, back in the old days, it used to be that you had to turn it on. That is not the case anymore. It is default on for everybody. And if you don't see it, either reach out to me directly on Twitter, and happy to help you, or talk to your IT administrator and see if they may have happened to turn something off, either explicitly or by accident.
Excellent. So there may be other questions that people want to ask, but I think for now we are good to go, because we're also at the end of our available time. So thank you both. I'm handing it over to Mike again to continue your wrap up. Thank you.
Okay. In terms of today's webinar, we'll have the show notes and link. There is a YouTube playlist of all of our previous webinars. It's already out there, so you can watch. This is I think our 12th. So lots of different topics that are already posted. And then you can always get support right here with the support link. And if you're an educator who needs questions or help, you can file a support ticket, and we have our agents standing by. And then future webinars. Next week, we have Joy Gillespie and her team from Idaho, West Ada in Idaho, and they've done a really large deployment, training, adoption of teams, and that'll be really interesting to talk to her and those folks. We've got the Wakelet team and a Bunsey team representative for our partners. They're great partners of Microsoft Education. We work with a lot. They're going to be on the show on the 7th. And then the 8th, because it was so popular, another round of doing remote professional development. And this time we've got Kathy Kavanaugh, and the guest is Kathy Kersey, aka Kersey from Jersey. She's going to be on the show, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then our whole schedule, as usual, is below. And other than that, thank you to our 2 producers. We have Marilyn, who's been doing this for quite a while now, and then Charles is our little apprentice in training producer. So thank you very much for, and we'll